Calling the meeting to order now, and I'd like to take the roll call. John Hymas. John, can you hear me? Taking the roll call. You can raise your hand or turn on your speaker, either one, or your microphone.
Here.
Yeah, John's here. John McLaughlin isn't here yet. Hugh Beatty.
I'm here.
Yep, great. And Ed Grumbine.
Here.
Ed, from another country, I see.
Yes, and I'm in a big conference. I may be kicked out before our meeting is over, but I'll do my best to stay as long as possible.
The acoustics are great. We can hear you fine.
Yeah, the signal's really great too.
For people that have had a chance to review, and if you haven't, please take a quick look at our agenda for today's meeting. And I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve it after discussion. If anybody'd like to make additions, deletions, amendments, clarifications, please do that now. Is that a chance? If anybody would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as proposed, or to?
I move to accept our agenda as approved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Hugh seconds. Is there further discussion of the agenda? Any corrections, deletions, additions, clarifications? Hearing none, I'll call the questions. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as proposed, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Aye, aye. Passes 4-0. Professor McLaughlin still not having joined us. The minutes of the last meeting will be, I'm not sure. So you did.
We don't have the minutes of the meeting from the 28th. I just haven't been well enough to get them done, but I did send out the minutes from the 9th of November.
Oh, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah.
So the meetings of the 9th of November here, the others will be available as soon as Robin heals up and is able to produce them for us. Thanks for your Herculean efforts in so many ways, Robin. I really appreciate it. You've done a great job despite some significant hardships. Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Have people had a chance to review the earlier minutes, and do I hear a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve.
Grumbine moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Hyma seconds. And is there further discussion about those minutes? Any additions, clarifications? Hearing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as recorded, please raise your right hand and say yes.
Aye.
Yes. Hugh, how about you?
I was wondering, is the Gmail with Dean Fearful in there? Is that part of the minutes, or?
Yeah, that's an addition to the minutes because it was a comment he sent in. And the next minutes will also have some comments that people sent in.
Okay. So I didn't agree with them. Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll then, Hugh, we had 2 votes already, and the vote was up to you. Hugh, approve, I'll approve. It's 4-4 in favor of approving the minutes. I'd like to move on to general public comments, and we have a number of guests. So Vince, you'd be welcome to, and as well as Barbara and Christopher. But Vince, you had your hand up. So would you like to make a comment?
I would. Yeah, I just read the Cascadia article that's in the Cascadia that came out today. And at the bottom of the fold, there's a big article about our park district renewing the levy. And it's written by Julia Lerner, and the sidebar says that there'll be a part 2 coming next week. And I just would like to say that there are, numerous inaccuracies in there. And in her reporting. And I just want to alert you commissioners, if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, and impress upon us all that we need to do a major PR. We need to do major PR that people don't understand the role that the city is playing in our difficulties. And I think that, not that we want to blame the city, but they sure quoted, Julia's article sure quoted Nicole pretty definitively and didn't really give us a chance to rebut that. So I think we need to really contact her. Maybe, you know, Frank or a board member needs to talk to her. That's my comment. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with you. I think the whole framing of it was bad. As many times throughout the article, she talks about the park, when she never, I think she mentioned community forest one time, you know, but it's a community forest. It's not a park. It's not a place to walk your dog from Edgemore, you know. So it's too bad that she had to start off that way without. I figured she would have at least looked at some of the previous videos of our meetings and understood the issue a little better.
She had the correct information. I talked with her. I told her what the facts were, and she didn't seem to include that. I just briefly looked at it. I think even the headline is somewhat misleading to say that the park district renews things and the city calls for dissolution. That, I mean, we agree about dissolving. It's not like the city's doing that to us. That's something we agreed to at the beginning. It doesn't seem to be accurate. So I think we should, I think you made a good point, Vince. So and I think that was generally the thought, that we would have to do that as well. Just of note for the record, John McLaughlin just joined us. Welcome, John. Although I see a beautiful creek instead of your smiling face so far.
Turn up your sound, John.
Yep. So thanks for that comment. Is there any other public comments, either Christopher or Barbara? Yes, Barbara? You have to unmute. Thank you.
I haven't seen the Cascadia article, but I'm really surprised because as far as I know, she hasn't been at any meetings. So it's like she's writing this from the city's point of view, but she hasn't been to any meetings to cover actually what the discussion is and why this is going forward. And I think that's an important piece to give her. Like, she can talk to somebody, but you haven't come to hear the discussion and to hear what other community members, not just the board, are saying. And feel pretty strongly that it's yeah, you can get things tweaked the way you want to have it tweaked if you're not serious about being a neutral reporter.
Yeah.
So that's my only comment. I don't know why she won't come or participate, so she has an understanding.
Noted. Christopher, do you have, please?
I didn't have any comments. A couple of questions though, and I expect if I just shut up, eventually the questions will be answered. So maybe later I'll say something. But I wonder if this isn't something that if everybody here wrote a letter to the editor in the Cascadia Daily, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. Thank you, Christopher. That's a good idea, I think, is to engage them constructively in their own media. It sounds like a great idea. I did fail to introduce people, but I think everyone knows everyone. Robin is our secretary. We have trusted long-term involved individuals. Mensa, Barbara, and Christopher are here. And our trusted legal advisor, Bob Carmichael, is here. And that's it so far for this evening. It says that we have 11 people. Having said that, I'll go ahead and move on to old business, the conservation easement, the currently status and next steps, and meeting potential with easement assignees and meeting with the city. Bob, are there current developments in your discussions with Mr. Mariner?
I did speak with them after the last board meeting, informed him about the board vote for the park levy. He had seemed to forget that he had already agreed to meet with the park district and the land trust. And I had to talk with him about that again during that call. And at the end of it, he did say that the city would meet with the park district and the land trust to discuss any further revisions to the conservation easement, although he did state that he thought the city had given a lot of ground already from what had existed previously and agreed to a lot of changes. And he was still quite reticent to consider any prioritization of uses. And I won't say it was a line in the sand, but it was pretty close to that, which is one of the reasons he was reluctant to meet again. But he did eventually agree. And I did remind him that he already had agreed to such a meeting. And so I think the next step here, if the board is willing, our board, would be to schedule a meeting with two representatives and the city and the land trust to talk about bringing the conservation easement into a final form and see if we can make some progress in that regard. And if we can, and the board does decide to go with the land trust, then we could be still very near completion of what we really need to do, which is find an assignee for the conservation easement who we're all comfortable with, and to try to put the conservation easement into the best shape we possibly can. And that's what I would recommend that we try to do. In speaking with Rand Jack, he agreed that he would be willing to have a meeting like this and sit down to discuss the conservation easement with the city and the park district board and try to help finalize a negotiation over it even before the park district board agrees to assign the conservation easement to the land trust. He understands that that decision has not been made yet, but he is still willing to attend such a meeting. So I do think that we have that opportunity in front of us, and would encourage the park district board to agree to that next step. And if I'm given direction along those lines, then I would send material, conservation easement material, the original and the changes that have been made in the current version, to Rand Jack and invite him to come to a meeting. I'd copy Alan Mariner and try to schedule that meeting with everyone's schedules.
I move that we do that.
Do we hear a second? Great. So Hugh moved, Ed Grumbine seconded. Is there further discussion of that issue?
I have been getting a lot of complaints from constituents that I just tell them, we've done our best, and if you read the mission statement, then maybe you'll understand better why we are holding out like this. I can't I can't be more articulate when it comes to what we're trying to do and people don't understand. I said, all we have is the conservation easement now. And so, you know, we have to stand by that. And sure, we re-upped the levy, but it's just a pittance compared to what it was. And it's more show than anything. And we may need this money for legal purposes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's.
I think we need to talk about that. I think we also need to talk about just the lack of care the city has put into educating people about the appropriate use of the community forest. I've been up there almost every day. I see people with dogs off leash. I see, people continuing to use trails that are inappropriate. I think we just need to also make a significant educational effort about those things and engage the city in a constructive way about working with them to get appropriate signage and appropriate interpretive information as soon as can happen, not a year from now. And so I think it'll depend somewhat on I've looked over their requests for proposals, and it's mainly engineering and design for trail systems, further construction. So I think that there is a significant issue there about education. So I think both the legal issue of resolving who holds and what the actual conservation is and ultimately is going to say, and a second component of education about the impact of some of the behaviors and activities that have been taking place in the community forest and how deleterious they can be and why it's important. I think a lot of people just don't understand why it's significant. And that's on us. That's what we've got to be doing. I think it's clear the city hasn't made an effort about that. It's clear that we need to make an effort about it, whether it's in writing in the press or whether it's in cooperative actions with the city. I hope the city chooses to be cooperative and allow us to assist them in doing that as partners. But I've actually heard mostly positive things. I've heard many, many positive things about our efforts and about many people don't understand, though, that we are in fact going to go away in September, and that's not something the city's imposing on us. That's something we agreed to at the beginning. So I think we need to make an effort to educate people about what the actual structure is between the city and the park district, and also educate them about the need for a conservation easement that's comprehensive and adequate to protecting the property, and that we have the proper interpretive signage and interpretive efforts to protect the property in the interim. At least that's my view. Further discussion, we had Hugh wanted to move this forward. It was seconded. Shall we give direction to Councilor Carmichael to take this forward with the city? We've had a motion.
Could you restate motion?
Well, Hugh was pretty glib about it. He said, do what Bob suggested. But I think what we're suggesting is that Bob Carmichael send an email to Rand Jack, inviting him formally into the process, to CC the city so they know we're doing that, and then to arrange for that meeting that we've discussed with the city and they agreed to discuss this and to bring the land trust into that discussion through Rand Jack's efforts. If that's Hugh, is that an adequate summary?
Yes.
There you have it, John. Was there any comments, John?
Is that a formal recognition of land trust? Or
You're breaking up, John. I couldn't hear what you said.
Is that
a-
equivalent to a formal recognition of the land trust as the
No,
recipient
it's
of
not.
easement?
It's not at all. In fact, what Bob said, and you may not have been on the call yet, was that Rand has agreed to do that, recognizing that the land trust has not yet been selected. He's doing that as an individual volunteer to help educate the city about what would be necessary, probably not just for land trust, but for any assignee,
Right.
in terms of what they would want as elements of the conservation easement to make it enforceable, interpretable, and clear.
And equally importantly, the city through Mr. Mariner has agreed to meet, knowing that the Park District Board has not agreed to assign to the land trust, which is reversal of their prior position. So they have agreed, and I would like to take them up on that. At least they've agreed verbally.
Further discussion? I'll go ahead and call the question then. Everybody in favor, please raise your right hand and say yes.
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 No,
5. Did somebody say no?
No.
Yo, okay. So that's 5 in favor. It's a unanimous decision. Is there any other old business? One item, and I just mentioned it as a point of information, is that we did evaluate a number of other options. There are at least 2 others in town who I think would be interested in a further discussion and potential assignees, and that we should, at a future meeting, have a discussion about who we want to assign this to, or what the process will be for selecting the assignee. It's not really something that's on the agenda tonight, but that's something, I think that's next steps, probably to next meeting, have a further discussion about exactly how and when we'll decide that, and by what criteria.
Frank? You talked in one of the last meetings about maybe at every meeting having one of these potential assignees come to the meeting so people could ask them questions. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, as a process thing, I think we do need to identify a process, and that would be my recommendation about how that process could work. But there are other elements of that process. It probably warrants a significant discussion in the process before we actually engage in it, just to make sure we've got the criteria we're considering and the options fully discussed. New business, the stewardship of the Chuckanut Forest and the 100-acre wood, steps for educating the public in stewardship of the park, and a focus on education. I've spoken just briefly about that, but I think that I believe that there's harm currently taking place. There are also a number of things that have never been remediated that the city would need to remediate. For example, some of the bike impacts, which continue. When I was there today, there's very strong evidence of bicyclists using steep slopes, causing erosion, continuing to damage the park in a critical area on a steep slope going directly into a wetland. I think that from my point of view, that stewardship issue is a critical one in the next few months when we're still here, and I see it as our job to make the changes through a public process and through public notification, one way or another, hopefully jointly with the city, to ensure that some of these deleterious things are ameliorated as best we can. But is there further discussion about that item?
yeah. So this is all the conservation easement, and how is it enforced? That's what I'm trying to explain to people. I'm kind of, anyway, maybe you can help.
Yes, Barbara, did you have a comment?
Well, I've been thinking about, I feel we really need to structure a PR campaign around this. So I was thinking just off the top of my head, some things that we need to do. There are neighborhood meetings that meet every month. I go to the Fairhaven one, there's one South Hill. Go to these neighborhoods. There's the Fairhaven merchants meet every Wednesday. And if we had, as a group, I mean, if we had a consistent message, so somebody gets, works together to draft what our consistent message is. So it's not always just one person, but whoever goes has the same consistent message to give. I think that people who aren't environmentally astute or even interested particularly don't understand what this property is. And there are a lot of people who do, but they already do, and so they're not talking about it with people. So I don't know how you want to structure that. I'd be very happy to be involved with that, because I think that people need to understand why the board voted for the thing, why the conservation easement is so important, and why we're where we are. And I think that can do a lot. If people can ask questions and then understand a little bit more. I don't know, there must be other groups that we could go to too, but those are just the ones I thought of.
I personally did the Happy Valley meeting last night, and I had met with them the month before.
Thank you.
Taxes and this and that from reading some stuff by some people. And I told them at the time to look at our meetings in our hearing in November and watch it and see what they say. And so one of them did, and she was just so, she said it was excellent the way we went about it. And so she, somebody that hasn't been involved, but she really liked what we had to say. So I think it doesn't hurt to go to the neighborhoods, that's for sure. Talk for small groups,
Perhaps we could do is have a small committee to draft up the talking points. Barbara, I would be happy to join you in that. Are there other members that might be willing in doing that?
I would.
John? Yeah. Okay.
I think we can only have two of us on the on such a committee, but
Well,
I think four people is a good number. I think that's a good working group, and we can find a time to meet. Barbara, would you be willing to take a leadership role in that?
Sure.
Wonderful.
I am going to be out of town for a few days. I'll be back next week. But I'll see if I can put something together and just at least we could set a time, a date set when we could.
I'm going to be out of town until early next week too.
Yeah, and our first output could be a letter to the editor,
right,
with our unified message, which I'm taking notes on right now.
Yes.
So we need a draft of that, and that could be our unified message also.
Great idea. I have surgery on my knee on the 23rd, but
Okay.
that means I'll be more available. I won't be able to go. I've got to sit around for that. So
Yeah, but you'll be on drugs.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment about the newspaper story. I haven't read it yet, but I can catch the drift. The most important thing about that story, now that it's complete, is that it's part one of part two. The journalist reached out to me and we played email tag. I never did talk with her, but I haven't burned any bridges there, and I'm happy to reach out to her tomorrow and inquire about her plans for part two and request an interview. And by that time, of course,
Yes.
I'll read the story.
Yes.
I'd like to remind everybody that the feedback we're getting from people unhappy with the levy may not be representative of the community at large.
Right.
And so I hate to have us invest a lot of time into a minority group. I don't know whether it's a minority group or not, but all I can say is that we don't have any proof about how many people are disappointed versus how many people would support the levy.
True.
So we just want to be careful about anecdotal information standing in for a community consensus one way or the other.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Ed, because I was going back through, I have all the records from Responsible Development and for the other, some of the other organizations that have been donated to me to preserve, which I'm going to then move to the facility that studies community movements at the university, their archive. And so in reviewing that, there's a lot of people that believe in exactly what we believe in, a very large number. And I think, and we got all their names, and at one time we had all their addresses and all that. So we certainly can reach out to some of those people who've been involved for literally decades. And I think that would be a good thing. I also think Terry Borneman and Gene Knutson have been clear thinking, long time involved community leaders that we should involve as well, just to make sure that these points are made, not just by us, but really invite the community to speak. Many people are less forthcoming, but I think they can be. There's another person that just joined the meeting and has their hand raised. Ross, you missed the public comment portion of the meeting, but if we do have time, if you'd like to make a comment. Is Ross, is that, it looks like you have your hand raised. If you want to speak, you have to unmute.
Mic's off there.
Well, I'm sorry, Ross, but you do have your hand raised. I'd be happy to recognize you, but you need to unmute to talk. It looks like you have been muted then. So Ross, would you like to say something?
Turn your volume up, Ross.
So you are not now muted and you should be able to talk if you'd like. If you don't want to, that's fine. Some people get their hand up by mistake. You're unmuted now. If you've got the volume turned up, you should be able to speak. Well, while you sort that out, please, we'd be happy to hear what you have to say if you can do it. You have unmuted successfully, and you're certainly here. You did take your hand down, so I'll quit harassing you in case you don't want me to have you speak. And we'll return to our discussion, I guess. So I think let's have a chance at getting that subcommittee together and other citizens and move forward with that. John McLaughlin, you got your hand up.
Thanks. This discussion has been interesting. I would not count on prior support on this. There are misleading comments coming from newspapers or from the city. I think that creates basically a message. And if we have information that provides a complementary view of that, or if we think that message is incorrect, I think we ought to get our ideas out there. Otherwise, those other messages are what gets out. So I strongly encourage this committee to do great work.
I think that's the intention.
Yeah.
Yes, Hugh.
For education, I was thinking we could have a little pamphlet made up, sort of like, small pamphlet. You could have a stack of them in a little box near the entrances to the big trails, and for visitors, it just could say for visitors, and you could have a little guidance for visitors, and that might help.
Hey, Hugh, could you speak up just a little bit? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry, move it forward here.
I heard
Guy,
you. Let me see if I got it right. So Hugh is suggesting we make a pamphlet that covers a lot of this information and potentially have it available on site at the entrances to the park. Is that right, Hugh?
yeah, little pamphlet for visitors so they can kind of learn the rules a little bit, you know.
Good suggestion.
Special place it is, you know.
Yeah.
John McLaughlin?
Could we provide the content for that, but any action that requires expenditure of money?
Oh, it's cheap.
The city could print it and install whatever structure the pamphlets are in. We could provide the content, but then we wouldn't be spending taxpayer money on something the city ought to be doing.
Right.
That's a good point. Well, I think that gives us something to talk to the city about in a productive, forward-moving way. Yeah, good suggestion. Yes, Mensa?
Plus, the city might object to us putting something out that doesn't have their imprimatur on it.
But it's also, we can't do construction and all that stuff, even something as simple as a post in a box.
Yeah, we have to work together with the city if we're going to take that route.
We can and should, yeah. And
Yeah,
I
no
would
doubt
hope
about
they would be happy to do that.
They put up any signs yet? Have you noticed?
There are several existing signs about dogs being off leash at the main entrances. They've been there for some time. They're not very apparent. They certainly don't provide interpretive information about why that's important. But there are some basic signage at several of the entrances.
I don't mean to speak against a brochure, I'm not, but I do mean to say that signs are ineffective in managing people's behavior. So you could have the biggest sign in the world or the longest sign with the most words and the most advice. People don't read signs, they go for a walk in the woods.
Well, if they was small enough and put it in their pocket, they might read it when they get home. You know?
Well, a pamphlet might be more
Sure,
effective.
it might work. I don't mean to speak against brochures, but signs don't work.
Yeah. Ed, speaking as the PhD professional in this stuff that he is, actually, I think there's literature that
From
support that.
experience as a ranger, experience with reading about environmental education and the role of signs. And most interestingly, I'm speaking about a teacher who worked with students for 22 years and they never read signs. And especially when the signs directed them the way they were supposed to go and they went the opposite way.
Barbara?
Well, I just was going to ask Ed, so do you think signs, if people are educated, signs are a reminder, or signs just really aren't going to work at all? I mean, I don't think they educate people, but I think they are reminders if you've been educated.
Yes, you're reminded if you read the sign.
Oh,
If you don't read the sign, you're not reminded. Do a little experiment. Go out to the woods, any of the major trailheads, and sit there for 15 or 20 minutes and try to see for yourself how many people read the signs when they enter the woods. And you should be able to do that, and you'll find that they don't read the signs.
Great. So we'll include some of those things in our educational efforts and in our meetings with the city.
So what if you had a picture on the sign that had a dog that was
Depends on what the picture is about.
some beautiful salamander or something? You know?
Could be a mountain lion or, who knows?
Yeah.
So,
Or maybe a picture of somebody getting a ticket.
Yeah.
looks like Ross left us. I'm disappointed they feel comfortable speaking up or didn't speak out. We want to hear all points of view. At any rate, so we'll do that in our subcommittee and send it back to the group, and hopefully can move this forward relatively efficiently. Any other new business? Let's go on to the monthly expenses and class flow sheets. Petty cash, we have as of 11/30/22, $2,967.11 in petty cash. Treasury report as of the 30th of November, Walker County Treasurer's monthly record report. Beginning unencumbered balance, $274,298. Ending unencumbered balance as of 11/30 is $271,546. Received in tax revenue, $7,867. Paid out $11,293 in operating expenses. So a slight decrease in our overall. We expended a bit more than what we took in. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the district payroll form. Wages for Robin, 45.75 hours in November, with a total gross of $1,143.75. Do I have a motion?
Move approval for Robin's payroll.
Hugh moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Hugh and seconded by Hymas. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say yes. There we go.
Yes.
5-0, it passes. We have a consent agenda and we'll take a motion and a second to discuss this at one time. Payments for December 12th, invoice 303, Richard Hartnell, $600 for technical services on running the virtual in-person board meetings. Payment August 24th, receipt from Robin Albro for $70.70 for printer ink. Payment July 27th, receipt from Robin Albro, $110 for the Secretary of State annual corporate filing. Payment October 15th, invoice 647 from Carmichael Clark for $5,593.50 for professional services. Payment November 15th, invoice 922 from Carmichael Clark for $3,957 for professional services. Payment November 30th for a billing of Altman Insurance, Philadelphia, Altman Insurance, Philadelphia Insurance for $671 for business owners insurance. Payment on November 17th, billing for Altman, Philadelphia Insurance, $1,441 for directors and officers liability insurance. Any discussion of any of those specific items, or do I hear a motion and a second for adoption?
I motion to approve adoption.
Moved by Grumbine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm a second. Further discussion?
Yes, just curious. It used to be when I was filing for nonprofits with the Secretary of State, it was like $10. Now it's $110. Sure
It's gone up to $60. And because of that, I discovered at the last minute that I couldn't do an online filing. I had to do an expedited filing. So that was the extra $50. So that's why it was so much this time. Next year, I should be able to file online. And so it should just be 60.
Thanks for the question and thanks for the answer. All right, I'll go ahead and call the question then. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Right.
Passes unanimously, 5-0. Reminder, Robin will be sending out 3 board members right after the meeting, myself, Professor McLaughlin, and Hugh Beatty. Please respond to confirm that you approve the paying the bills as listed on the consent agenda and the payroll. And that confirms in writing our having done that at this meeting. The next regular meeting will be January 25th at 6 p.m. This meeting will be held on Zoom and in person at 1108 11th Street, 303, and just above Fairhaven Bicycle. Anyone attending in person needs to know they'll be required to wear a well-fitting mask for the commissioners and of the Chuckanut Community Forest Park District as voted on their October 26, 2022 meeting.
That's 2023.
2023. No, well,
Thank you for the correction, Vincent.
Yeah, the earlier meeting was 2022, but the next one in January is 2023. Thank you, Vincent. It's going to be hard to get used to once again. Any other thoughts for oh, Christopher, you promised us you'd come back and say something more.
Actually, one of my questions that I didn't hear anything about was, has the park department acknowledged the age of the forest and the height of the trees?
To my knowledge, we have not received a response from our letter to the city.
They
Robin,
did acknowledge that they got it.
yeah, they acknowledge they got it. They haven't acknowledged that they're wrong or that they may be wrong. We'd be happy for them to go out and look and see. It'd be nice if they did that. Anything else, Christopher? Thank you.
Well, I'd be willing to participate in the committee formulating PR if there aren't already too many people.
There are not too many people. We'd be delighted to. We just can have 2 commissioners. We can't have more. So the more citizens we have, the better.
So it would be Hugh and I and Vince and
Barbara.
Christopher.
And Barbara.
Okay, and Barbara. Cool.
I thought it was 2, wasn't it? I thought it was. What I wrote down was you and me, not Hugh and me, you and me.
Yeah, John and Frank,
Yeah, I'm
and
still-
Christopher and Vince and me.
Can't get out to meetings very easily.
Yeah.
But I'd be glad to read it, get it done, and, offer a quick proof of it or whatever.
Barbara.
Well, I do have a question for the committee. If we come up with something, I mean, the next meeting is going to be the end of January. Can we circulate it and get sort of an okay from the commission?
Well, let's ask Bob about let's ask him how we circulate it and get approval.
We can't do that. I'm sorry, because that would be a decision outside of an open public meeting.
Oh, gee.
Can we delegate the committee the authority to send it out?
What would be best if you delegated the 2 commissioners who are members of the committee the authority to do that.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, but then if I wanted to send my own personal letter, I could use those points.
You can always use syndrome.
Of course.
Yeah, I could always use those bullet points or
Right.
that unified message and add my own,
Yes.
hopefully not disruptive twist. Yeah, I'm not always tactful, but I could try.
It's certainly any work product of this group would be public information. So I think that'd be great. Okay. So do we need a formal motion for that? I think we may need a formal
That
motion.
would be a good idea.
So do we have a motion that this committee, the commissioners on this committee would be encouraged and able to make this information publicly available to the city and others that are interested? Somebody needs to make that motion besides me.
I support that motion.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to allow the 2 participating commissioners to move that information forward to the public. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand and say yes.
Yeah.
So this means to the public, you mean like, for instance, to the Cascadia Weekly?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So let me go ahead and raise your hand, those in favor of that.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you.
Just
You're talking, but I can't hear you.
I just wanted to say that one of the points that we should emphasize is that there's been a whole lot of population growth in these neighborhoods since we set up the forest district, and that has also caused more damage to the forest. That increased population, and so remediation is more than it would have been if it wasn't for all the growth.
I hear you, Hugh. If there's no other information, I'm going to go ahead and move to adjourn unless there's something. Seeing no other additional things, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 6:52. This is the first time we've been on time in a long time. So thank you all very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
January 25th,
Holidays.
2023. 2023, yeah. See you then.
Like it.
Happy holidays, Hugh. Thank you.
All I want for
Happy
Christmas
holidays.
is conservation.
Hey, Barbara.
Well done, Hugh.
Oh, is Barbara still? Oh. You're still
I can
recording?
send out contact information for
Yeah,
everyone.
because I have multiple emails for Barbara and I don't know which is current really. But
Okay, I'll send something out after the meeting.
okay, and then I'm gonna write a draft right now. Oh, here. She's calling me. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, thanks, John.